Hello and a big bouncy welcome to Masterclass. Now if you're all fingers and thumbs, we're the show to help put you on the straight and narrow. Today we'll be running a duster over your files to help clean them up. That's right, we're looking at list management in Excel, and this is the cry for help that prompted today's show.
We have a holiday home that we rent out in response to newspaper ads, and my father has been writing all the details into the computer. So that we can mail relevant information, I would now like to add them into an ACT database, but the fields are all over the place. How could I best tidy the list?
Well, Kay, it's funny, we actually emailed Kay to find out what her specific problem was and to see what her dad had been doing with this list, and it actually transpires that he was doing something that turned out to be very useful for list management, and I'll show you what that was. What he's doing is he's got this copy of Notepad, which is the most basic word processing tool entry system that you've got on your computer, and he was typing the information in, and he was typing it in like this. For instance, if you got a letter from Mr. Bill Smith, he would type it in, then he'd say that was his name, his address was 22 The Road, Streeton, Australia. Great. Now, what he's done, incidentally, in typing that in, and he's typed in loads and loads of different addresses underneath that, by the way, and saved them as one file, is he's separated this address up with commas. Now that was totally accidental, but in doing it totally accidentally, he's actually done it totally brilliantly, because what he's done is he's created a delimited text file. Now I know that sounds like something you might go and see a doctor about, but a delimited text file is the use of things like commas and spaces to separate fields. And so what we can do is we're going to take the text file that her dad might have created, we've done our own, we're going to import it into Excel, and that then allows us to start moving the fields around. And so actually in a very fortunate position. Now if you do want to do text and you want to use it in the database later on, you probably could not do a better way than doing it like this. Just type it into a notepad. It allows it to be flexible later on. If you do have a spreadsheet, then you should probably do it straight into that. But this is a very good way of getting information into a digital format as early as possible. Now what I'll do is I'm going to close this particular file down. I don't want to save that. I'm just going to show you one that we did earlier on, one that we just typed in ourselves. And you can see here a list of names almost similar to the one that Kay's dad's done, Mr. Bob Apple, the Orchard, Appleshire, Australia. And there's about half a dozen or so entries into this. Now according to her, her dad's got about 400 of these. So obviously some serious list management is called for at this point. Now what I'm going to do is close this file down, and I'm going to open Excel, because this is the program that we're going to use to start sorting out the data that's already been typed in. So what I do is I come down to Start, Programs, and again we say Excel, but you can use this in a vast number of any spreadsheet programs. Lotus 123 is a very good one, and that's got some very good list management functions as well. So here we are, we've opened up the spreadsheet, and there's a nice blank spreadsheet there ready to go, and I'm now going to ask it to open a file. And what I'm going to do is ask it to look for that particular text file that I just opened, and that's on our removable drive D, and I think it's 337, and you'll notice that the Excel spreadsheet thinks that there's nothing in that folder. Well, there is, because it's a text file and we're looking for Excel files. So what I need to do is to change that drop down menu and ask it to look for all files that we have, and this is the one, 337 text.txt. So I click on that and ask it to open the file. Now this is when things start getting interesting, because what it now does is it offers us the text import wizard. It's a three-step process which allows us to pull data from files like this into our spreadsheet. We've got two different ways of doing it. We've got delimited or fixed width. Now delimited is going to go through this and look for our commas, and here we have our commas in our document, and that's what it's going to use to separate the different fields. That's one way of doing it. Now fixed width, as the name suggests, all it does is it puts in divisions at very fixed points. Now of course that's no good for us, because we'll end up with Miss Ophelia P1-2.avi, and then her address starts Wunner Lumbar, so that's not going to be any good at all. So the one we want is the delimited. So let's get rid of those there, choose delimited, and then go through into the next stage of our wizard. Very simply, we click on the next button, and it says, well, what do you want to use as the delimiter, as the thing that breaks up the different elements of your document? And what I'm going to use is a comma, because that's exactly what Kay's dad has got. Now if I choose comma, what you can see instantly is the machine recognizes that there are commas in that document, and it's put them into different columns like that. I mean, the job has almost been done for us, almost immediately, which I think is very convenient indeed. I'll get rid of the tab ones there because that's not important to us at this stage. Now, there is a third stage to this, and if I click on Next, what it's going to start asking us to do now is to format the data in those columns. Well, we don't need to do that really, because what we want to do is simply to get this into the spreadsheet as it stands at the moment. So I'm going to click Finish, which is down on the right hand side. And now you can see that we've got the information up on the spreadsheet. And what I'm going to do now is make the columns the right width so we can see what we're doing, and then make it as organised as we possibly can. Now, we've got the information into our spreadsheet, but it does alarmingly look as if half of it has disappeared. We take a look at it and you can see that, well, our addresses start disappearing about halfway through, which makes us think that the information has been lost. And in fact, my dad was working on a spreadsheet the other day that I'd sent him, and he rang me up in a right panic because he thought the whole thing had disappeared. Well, it hasn't disappeared. What we've got here is the equivalent of lots of pieces of paper overlapping each other like that, and that's exactly what's happened here. These columns aren't wide enough. So to fix it, very simply, click up in this grey box here between the 1 and the A that highlights all of the spreadsheet, then go to Format, Column, Auto Fit, then allows everything to fit onto the page, and it suddenly looks a lot smarter. Now, we're almost done now. You can see that we've got all of this information in different columns, but what I want to do is to sort it alphabetically by their Christian names, and at the moment you see their Christian names are buried beneath the Mr., Mrs. and whatever. So what I want to do is get all of this information and split it into 3 columns. And there's a very simple way of doing this. We do this in the same way that we worked with the text file that we had a minute ago, and I'll show you how. First of all, copy the column with this information in it. So to do that, we highlight it by pressing the button at the top. That selects the whole column. Then do Control-C. The little running ants go around the outside. That then tells us that we've highlighted that column. I go to choose a new document, and then I highlight the column again, and I do Control-V. And that pastes in that column's information into the space that we made available for it.